talk about the Knicks side in a second, but first we have to start out Jayson Tatum in the second half. And as part of what was a monstrous night for him, the only reason why the Celtics were in the game, non-contact injury, wheeled off, and down the hallway, face in his hands, looking like he's pouring his eyes out. I think it's very clearly a torn Achilles, is all the signs of it being an Achilles injury. Mazzulla said after the game he'll get an MRI in the morning. It doesn't look good regardless. It looks like his series is definitely over. But, I'm holding my breath here, and it looks like it's probably going to be a worst-case scenario here, Tom. It's awful.
It was awful. And also, like you said, he was having one of the best playoff games of his career. I mean, let's just say it. In a must-win game in Madison Square Garden, down 2-1 in the series in which you were expected to be the East champion going against the Oklahoma City Thunder, to have that flexion in that ankle going for the loose ball, it reminded me of Damian Lillard. Just a couple weeks ago, we saw Damian Lillard go through this, and DeJounte Murray. That's 3 All-Stars, former All-Stars, dealing with what might be for Jayson Tatum, just assuming it is an Achilles tear. I believe that's the 5th one of the season this year, which is just heart-wrenching. You had James Wiseman, the former number 2 overall pick in Indiana, and Drew Smith over in Miami also suffering the same thing. So I do think that we're seeing a worst case scenario for a lot of these players. And of course, Kyrie Irving with the ACL tear. This has been a brutal series. A brutal postseason in terms of injury. And that's not even the end of it. Like, we're talking on the Cleveland side, them battling injuries. And it's just, I hate to see it for Jayson Tatum, because this guy was having 42 points in that game, and not just the points, it was the steals, it was the blocks, it was the playmaking. He was everywhere. I kind of felt like I was watching Jayson Tatum in 1.5x speed. Like when you listen to a podcast or on YouTube, he was everywhere. And it was tough to see making that play, trying to go for the loose ball. And at first it was deemed like maybe it was an ankle injury. But the way that he grabbed the back of his ankle in the same area that Damian Lillard and so many players before and Kobe Bryant, this feels like this is going to be a long-term injury, and one that I think that, Boston Celtics fans, this is a tough pill to swallow, considering how good he was this year and how good he was trying to put that team on his back, winning that game. Just an awful, awful circumstance here for the Celtics.
It's horrible, Tom. I mean, look, like you said, he had one of those games where it was arguably his best playoff game, one of his best playoff games. It made me think about that, probably the take of the year. Colin Cowherd earlier this year when he's like, shut your eyes and imagine Anthony, imagine LeBron James, imagine Michael Jordan, and then imagine Jayson Tatum. You see nothing. You know what take I'm talking about, right? That Colin Cowherd bit earlier in the year, Tom. And it made me think during the game, this is one of those games you shut your eyes and you might imagine this version of Tatum where he's doing absolutely everything on the floor. He was unbelievable. He looked like the best player in the world tonight is what he looked like. On this particular night, he looked like the best player in the world. And then that happened. Just a buzzkill for the Celtics for this to happen. It obviously, if it is a ruptured Achilles, will impact him into next season. Already there's conversation about how the Celtics are going to make trades this offseason, cut down on their luxury tax bill, get under the second apron. And then this happens. It's just another example of many historically in sports, not just the NBA, how quickly windows can shut. A team that felt like they had a chance to go back-to-back with Cleveland on the verge of elimination, their number one competitor in the East. It felt like a team that had a shot, and who knows? Like, you may never be back again. You may never be back again. And like, it's just awful for the Celtics, because this series is over, man. Tatum's out. Like, it's done. It's done. The Knicks are going to advance to the East Finals.
So look back at this. 2018, Golden State Warriors win the championship. 2019, the Raptors win the championship. 2020, the Lakers win the championship. 2021, Bucks. Next year, Warriors. Next year, Nuggets. Next year, Celtics. And we can pretty much guarantee that it's not going to be the Celtics if Jayson Tatum is out for the rest of the year. So that means that since 2018, this will be the 7th straight champion that could not repeat. And I don't even think it's necessarily just about repeating. I think it's just that the next couple years, it is not the same expectations are being met, where it's like, this is the beginning of a dynasty. We have new champions every year. I don't think that's great for the league. I don't think it's great. I know people will say we like parity, we like new champions every year, but in the NBA, we like storylines. We want familiar faces. And with all these injuries to star players, I think the parity question has always been more about the injuries. Like when we're talking about parity in the NBA and how good it is to see new champions every year, I think unfortunately the residue of all the injuries means we see new champions every year. And that's really the storyline for me, is for Boston. I think they would have a great shot at turning that series around if Jayson Tatum was still healthy at the end of that game, and then it goes 2-2 to Boston. I think they win this series. But without Jayson Tatum, this isn't about quote unquote parity and how the CBA has made it harder for teams like the Boston Celtics. This is about injuries. And that's the unfortunate byproduct of the NBA superstardom, is that they're injured more often these years. And I do think that the Milwaukee Bucks with Chris Middleton and Damian Lillard, that's a story about a team that really dealt with injuries as well. And I unfortunately think that the NBA has to figure out a way to keep their stars healthier in a league that we see this happen all too often. I don't know what the solution is, but we see this 82 game grind and we see these injuries to star players. There's got to be a fix. We've got to do something better about it.
It's unfortunate. It is sad to see all these types of injuries. And as you said, Tom, not only has nobody repeated, but none of those teams have made it out of the second round the following year. Joe Mazzulla all year has talked about it as the second round curse. And it seems like that is indeed what's happening again to Boston. And even putting aside that injury to Tatum, prior to the injury, they had a 14-point lead and they blew it. So this is the third time in the series they've blown a 14-point lead or greater, 20 points in game 1, 20 points in game 2, and now, of course, 14 points in this pivotal game 4. The Celtics in this game, Tom, they started the first quarter 9 of 14 from 3, and then they were only 9 of 34 for the remainder of the entire game. So they had as many threes in the first quarter as they did over the final 3 frames of this game. Once again, it felt like, really, aside from Tatum for the most part, and also Derek White, who was 6 of 11 from 3, aside from those two guys, Boston, again, just ice cold, dude. And whether this is due to fatigue after a long run last year, winning the finals, the Olympics for 4 of those guys, then another long run this year, or whether it was due to something in their heads about this upcoming offseason, knowing that things are going to change, or whether it was just the way they're being defended or against Orlando last round, or whether it was just something, just a natural cold stretch, which happens, that infected the whole team. Once again, Boston just goes ice cold. And it just shows really the variance in their approach with 3-point shooting. And I still think with Boston and Mazzulla ball, it can work. But I do feel like, as I talked about last week on my podcast with Noah Delzell and Jack Simone, they've lost some of their layers to their offense. It has felt 1-2-dimensional, and I felt like that was happening again tonight as the Knicks made that comeback, playing gritty basketball. They played a lot of great plays. Brunson was trading haymakers, as Breen said on the broadcast with Tatum, but I felt like the Knicks showed more layers to their team than the Celtics were able to show once again tonight. And that raises questions about how they're going to build this thing out moving forward.
Yeah, man. Like, it's a tough watch with Kristaps Porzingis, man. Like, I think that is a huge variable.
So sad.
He can't get it going. His illness, his upper respiratory issue that he's been facing that they can't figure out. He's not able to start with the team, and he's coming in off the bench, and he just doesn't have it. There have been multiple times in this game where they just beat him off the dribble, and usually he can chase down and block that shot. But so many times he just doesn't have the movement. He doesn't have the conditioning. It's just a tough watch. The 3-point shooting isn't there. And there were so many games in that postseason run last year where he was just destroying teams with that long ball 3, and he just doesn't have it. And another injury or illness that has afflicted one of these championship contenders that you just wonder if they were fully healthy, like these teams were normally in the 90s and the early 2000s, this is a different story. And the Celtics are probably on their way to repeating or being in that finals if Kristaps Porzingis is still healthy, because he's that much of a dynamic player. The unicorn who wanted to show out for the Madison Square Garden, He just didn't have it. He didn't have his legs, didn't have his win, and it just seemed like this is a missed opportunity for another repeat champion. Is just they didn't have their guys, and with Jayson Tatum going down and Kristaps Porzingis not being healthy here, it's just really unfortunate. And we talked a lot about the Celtics here. I'm going to give you a stat here on the other side, the New York Knicks, Kev. In the fourth quarter in this postseason, in the fourth quarter in this postseason, Jalen Brunson has scored 102 points this postseason. The next highest guy in the NBA in the fourth quarter is 68. That's wow. Anthony Edwards has 68 points in the fourth quarter, and Jalen Brunson's at 102. You could put Jokic and Karl Anthony Towns together, and it still wouldn't match what Jalen Brunson has done in the fourth quarter this postseason. He's leading by far all players in clutch scoring this postseason, pretty much doubling up on the next highest player in clutch minutes. Jalen Brunson has been doing it all season long in clutch time, and we can say that they played too many minutes during the regular season, and Tom Thibodeau this, Tom Thibodeau that, but so far, it hasn't come back to bite them. Jalen Brunson has been tested all season long and overcome the adversity and played better than anybody else in clutch time. And he's still doing it with 102 points in fourth quarter action this postseason. And no one else has more than 70. That's insane, Kev.
Wow. And Brunson was absolutely, I mean, this might have been his best game of the entire postseason. 39 points, 12 assists, only one turnover. He was absolutely sensational. He was lights out in this game for the Knicks. And it feels like that clutch stat you're talking about, Tom, it is such an advantage for the Knicks in some of these end game situations when you have Brunson to lean on. Like all year with the Knicks, a lot of the talk has been about sometimes it's too much Brunson over and over and over. I think you're seeing a good amount of variety. You saw OG Anunoby with a pull-up three-pointer tonight, Mikal Bridges with that just gorgeous fadeaway that he hit with a defender draped over him from mid-range late in the game as well. You're seeing variety. I mean, four of their guys combined for 105 points. Brunson, Towns, OG, and Bridges. They're having a balance. But Brunson specifically, being able to lean on that guy down the stretch of games, the dude is just absolutely unstoppable. All you can really do is pray he misses. Like, it's at that point with him. And we'll see next round, in all likelihood, against the Pacers, who are up 3-1 in their series against the Cavaliers. He might be a guy you have to throw two at sometimes. Like, he's that special right now. And for Indiana next round, we'll save that conversation for another day. That's going to have to be a topic because this guy's unstoppable. There's nothing you can do about him, but the Knicks have other threats around him, and Bridges, and Cat, and OG, that make that a really, really hard riddle for the defense to have to deal with.
I mean, dude, listen to this. 102 points in 86 minutes of fourth quarter action. 102 points to 3 turnovers. 3 turnovers in the fourth quarter.
Only 3 turnovers, too? Only 3? Only
37
3?
made baskets, 16 assists, and 3 turnovers when everybody knows what he wants to do. He's getting to his spots. He's taking control of the ball. He's taking care of the ball when everybody knows who's going to have the ball in fourth quarters. And he has had 102 points to 3 turnovers. That's bonkers, dude. Like, for all the talk about, do they need a guy who can dominate down the stretch? Is he really a star? Is he a superstar? Right now, he is the leading scorer in the postseason in the fourth quarter by far. I mean, you could put, I'm just looking at the numbers here. You could put Jimmy Butler, 46 points, and Pascal Siakam, 48 points in the fourth quarter. That's 94 points. He's got more than those two combined. I mean, like, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander has 45 points in the fourth quarter. So you could put him and Jokic together. That's 95. There it is. Jalen Brunson has 102 points in the fourth quarter, which is more than Nikola Jokic and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander combined. The 2 MVPs next to Jalen Brunson. You can't even make that up. So that's insane, dude. 102 points, and those two guys combined have 95. Insane, dude.
What was that old Becky Hammond take she had? He's too small. If your best player is small, you're not winning.
Yeah, man.
We'll see how it plays out. We'll see how it plays out. But Brunson is even a better player than however long ago it was when Becky Hammond said that on ESPN. But Brunson, man, dude is absolutely special, man. And next round, in all likelihood, it's looking like Cavs Pacers. The Pacers are up 3-1 after winning their game 4 on Sunday in Cleveland. That's another series that, as you said earlier, has been derailed by injuries. Now Mitchell is possibly out for that game 5, potentially a closeout game. Mobley obviously has missed time in the series. Garland limited as well, among others. Cleveland, what a crash landing for them to finish this season out after they're one of the best teams in the regular season. My thought is this, though, Tom. Even if they were healthy, I think Indiana's better than a lot of people, including myself, gave them credit for. And Indiana, the way they have played the series, even in the game in which Cleveland did have their guys, they look like a legitimate threat, dude. This team has a top 10 defensive rating since mid-December. They've had one of the best offenses all year long. Halliburton, ever since mid-December, has been back to his usual self. He has shown he can lift his play up late in games as well, not to a Brunson level, but he has shown he can lift his play up late game situations. Indiana's a major threat, man, and I think they were a bit underrated, under the radar by everybody, including me, throughout the year, and they've shown that against Cleveland, despite Cleveland obviously having a lot of guys missing.
Yeah. I mean, what else is there to say about the Indiana Pacers? Just punching above their weight, and they're still going to be underdogs here. Even if Donovan Mitchell doesn't play in this game, like they might be still underdogs going into game 5 here.
Is that the line?
I'm just saying, I don't know what the line is right now, but I'm just saying, like this.
The Cavs right now, Tom, I pulled it up on BetMGM. The Cavs are -7.5. What?
Yo, put that on the Indiana Pacers whiteboard, man. I mean, come on.
How?
I mean, that's probably they don't know the status of Donovan Mitchell, but that's absurd. But, what do the Pacers need to do?
Get the hell out of here.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
I mean, maybe you just think that the clock's going to hit midnight on some of the role players and how well they've been shooting and playing. But, when I watch this team play, it just seems like summertime. That's what Jackie Mack did this amazing story about the 2014 San Antonio Spurs and the way they move the ball and how beautiful the game was. It felt like summertime. I think it was Tony Parker who said that like they want to play basketball like it's summer out. Like it's just summertime. They're just throwing the ball around and the ball movement is finding open shooters, take a good shot, make it a great shot. That's what the Indiana Pacers look like. They're finding mismatches, they're getting the open guy, and they're moving the ball. And it's beautiful to watch. Like, I think the Boston Celtics, the way they play is kind of, it's not a fun watch because a lot of it is just ISO or it's just take the first 3 that's open. It's not a beautiful game. Whereas I think the Indiana Pacers play a beautiful game. If you think that the NBA is all about ISO ball and they don't play any defense and it's just slow it down and wait till the fourth quarter to turn things on, watch the Indiana Pacers. They are an amazing team to watch. And the way that they play as a team, that's exactly against what people complain about the NBA. That's the Indiana Pacers are everything that's right about basketball. And it's great to watch the way they move the ball. They play for each other. They play hard. They play fast. This is what the beautiful game is all about. And I think the Indiana Pacers have kind of crystallized why we all fell in love with the game. It's the ball movement. It's the rotations. It's finding the open guy. And I think even though, this is a star league, I think that's the problem with the Indiana Pacers from a box office standpoint is Pascal Siakam and Tyrese Halliburton aren't necessarily the biggest stars in the league. But you look at who's leading the team in scoring in this series. It's not either of those two guys. It's Miles Turner, the guy who's been with the team since day one. It's a great story, and I think more people need to watch Indiana.
Well, they're going to have no choice but to watch a lot more Indiana once that series wraps up, unless Cleveland has some miraculous comeback. That Game 5 is on Tuesday night. The Nuggets and Thunder will also play that night. That's a 2-2 series. Been up and down, Tom. I mean, this has been a really fun series to watch. From a tactical standpoint, from a pure excitement standpoint as well, with a lot of close games down the stretch. The question really is, does Jokic figure out OKC? Because Game 2, after a great Game 1, Game 2, 6 of 16, Game 3, 8 of 25, Game 4, 7 of 22. Jokic looks frustrated. He looks confused by OKC's defense. As Drew Hanlon said to me on the podcast last week, they're trying to take away his right hand, left shoulder finish, which he prefers to get to. They're sending timely doubles to him. They're switching up the primary defender on him throughout the game, constantly changing looks. I've criticized Dagnall in this series for end game management, falling up 3 when Jokic was off the floor in game 2. Game 4, some of the substitutions down the stretch of that game, some of the decisions. But Dagnall has struggled in end-game situations. But game to game planning, he's been tremendous. He's been great. And the way they've defended Jokic has been executed perfectly by OKC. But do you think Jokic has hit a wall here? Or do you have any hope here that the multi-time MVP has a chance of figuring out this OKC defense and turning the series back towards Denver?
Yeah, he's been kind of befuddled by Jalen Williams, right? Like in that game, it seemed like Jalen Williams, the fact that they were able to have Chet Holmgren off the ball and being that big and playing two bigs and having them basically cut off those passing lanes that Jokic loves to get to, it really has flummoxed Nikola Jokic in ways we really haven't seen ever, like in the postseason, the way that the OKC defense have basically guarded him with smaller guys. And Hartenstein is still the primary defender, but would you have ever thought that Jalen Williams would have been kind of the kryptonite for Nikola Jokic? But in that game, like in this series, Jalen Williams, when he's guarding Nikola Jokic, Jokic is shooting 5 of 18. And I think a lot of that is the fact that Jokic doesn't have the passing lanes that he defenses on tilt. Like when you're off the ball on Jokic, you're always nervous about the pass that he's going to make because maybe you got to throw a double at Jokic to try to get the ball out of his hands. The Thunder are playing him straight up with guys like Jalen Williams, the J Williams, as well as the Jalen Williams. And I do think that you're seeing OKC with the length that they have off the ball and the fact that they have so many dogs out there that are able to swipe at him. He just doesn't look comfortable. And I got to hand it to Dagnall by basically saying, we're going to play Jalen Williams and dust him off and basically have him as the Jokic defender. And it's really thrown him off. And that's just one of like 4 guys. Jalen Williams, the other Jalen Williams, Chet, and Isaiah Hartenstein. How many teams can throw that many good defenders at Jokic and still have multiple bodies that can own the passing lanes? Just a great job by the defense.
Yeah, it's been endless, the amount of guys they've been able to throw at Jokic, and that was a good adjustment by Dagnall. Game 1, Jalen Williams plays only 3 minutes. Since then, 12, 14, and 13 minutes as the first big off the bench for Isaiah Hartenstein earlier in those games. And as you said, Chet Holmgren roaming off ball, being able to be a nuisance help over on Jokic as well, and just use his long, lanky arms in the passing lanes as well has been beneficial, which is why, like in that game 4 that they lost, or the game 3 that they lost in overtime, it was so confusing when Chet started the overtime on the bench. Like I was just confused by that because Chet was so important to the way they defended Jokic, and Denver gets off to a great start. They win that overtime. That game 3 was weird because I thought Dagnall also should have called a timeout at the end of regulation. And like I voted Dagnall as coach of the year last season. I thought he did a tremendous job again this season. I think he's a great coach. I think the adjustments throughout the series and the game planning has been tremendous. But end game situations, if Jokic can figure things out, if Murray's having one of those nights where he's on a heater, Denver's still hard to beat with those 2 guys. But to your point, Tom, about some of those passing lanes for Jokic, Porter Jr. has been a non-factor in this series. Russell Westbrook in that game 4 was absolutely horrible. 2 of 9 from 3-point range. Christian Brown can't really seem to find the rim in this series. It's like the Nuggets don't have a lot of shooters around Jokic right now that can be relied on. Peyton Watson as well, obviously not a great shooter. And Jokic himself is not shooting the ball well. So for Denver, I don't trust that Porter Jr. or Brown are going to be able to get hot necessarily. It's going to have to be on Jokic who ends up doing that. But overall, though, I think this series is going to continue to go deep. The one series we're not going to be able to discuss on tonight's pod is the Timberwolves and the Warriors. As we record, it is currently 49 Minnesota, 44 Golden State with a handful of minutes left in the second quarter. I do want to ask one question about this, though, Tom. Having not seen a single minute of this first half, Minnesota, This is embarrassing. How the hell are you not smoking this team? I don't care how good Golden State's defense is. They got nothing on offense. They got nothing. And every game is close. I don't think this game's going to be any different, Tom. It's so fun. If I'm a Wolves fan, I'm pulling my hair out, like praying to the basketball gods that we get this over with before Steph possibly comes back in game 6. This is crazy to me.
I know. Draymond Green wants nothing to do with this series, man. He's got no Steph, and as I've reported, he's 4 times as likely. He's 4 times more likely to be ejected in a game when Steph Curry is not playing. And he tried his hardest in the last game. I wonder if there's any controversy. You know, I don't even have to wonder. I'm sure there's controversy already in this game. We haven't been able to watch, but you know, like this has been such a crazy postseason. Steph Curry's injured. You got Damian Lillard injured. You got Donovan Mitchell leaving in the second half. Jayson Tatum now looks like a pretty bad injury to his ankle and Achilles. This is a crazy postseason, a crazy draft lottery night. I'm sitting here thinking like the Indiana Pacers might be playing in the NBA Finals. Like they already beat New York last year. Like we're that close to the Indiana Pacers, who are 41-16 since January 1, to run the table and make it to the NBA Finals. This is nuts, man. Like we're in the middle of it, so it's hard to believe. But like taking a step back, this has been the most bonkers postseason I can remember.
Yeah, it's been absolutely crazy. A lot of fun. Too bad about the injuries in this round. Hopefully the conference finals, a lot more good health and some amazing competitive series like we saw in round 1.